Well, hello there. Good morning, ladies and gents. Hopefully you're all having a good, hopefully you all have a good day, should I say. So today's video is one about the inghams. I feel like I haven't done a video on them for a little while. So I wanted to talk a little bit about one thing that has really kind of gotten, I've really kind of gotten fed up with, and it's a favoritism that is the blatant favoritism that is being shown, that is constantly being shown towards Jace. You know, these days, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but Jace is a spoilt brat. But he is not. That's not his fault. That's down to Chris and Sarah because of the way that they have constantly favoritized him and constantly put him on a pedestal. You know, Sarah's the worst one for that. You know, Sarah's the worst one for favoritizing Jace and putting Jace on a pedestal. Now, obviously, she's denied this so many times, and has claimed so many times that she doesn't favoritize Jace and she doesn't put Jace on a pedestal. But we all know that's absolute bullshit because we've seen so much proof that she does. I mean, we've seen it so many times in vlogs where Jace probably should have been disciplined for something and wasn't told off for it or anything. You know, but, Mina's probably told off more than Jace is, to be honest. I mean, it was like the other vlog. I think it was the one that went out on Tuesday. I think it was, and during the vlog there was a part where Jace was actually hitting Mila's feet, and he could be heard saying to her, "Come on then, and I'll knock you out." Now, my immediate reaction to this was, why on earth is a 5-year-old child coming out with something like that? Why on earth is a 5-year-old child telling his sister he's gonna knock her out? You know, saying, "Come in and I'll knock you out." That's not something that a 5-year-old child should be saying. But at the end of the day, the reason he says that is because most of the time he's been encouraged to say it. And it's like, that Chris and Sarah have no shame in saying that in front of the kids, I mean, obviously Jace is a spoiled brat. But the reason that Jace is a spoiled brat is because Sarah and Chris keep telling him that he's the boss. And again, that's not something you should be saying to a 5-year-old. You should not be telling a 5-year-old child that they are the boss. It's just not acceptable. Like, the fact that Jace is saying, "I'm gonna knock you out," like, yeah, I mean, you ever think about it, right? You imagine what the situation would be if Jace was in school and he said that to a kid in school. That would be that would be taken a lot more seriously. Like, the teachers would want to know why he's coming out with things like that, and would want to know why Jace is saying things like that. This is a big question, is why is Jace saying things like that? And that's because he's heard Chris and Sarah saying it. If you think about it, right, you think about the things that Sarah and Chris say in front of the kids. In fairness, they probably said a lot of things in front of the kids that they probably shouldn't be saying. And they probably have no shame in saying a lot of bad stuff and a lot of bad things in front of the kids. They obviously don't care about the fact that the kids will kind of pick that up and will start repeating those things, and it's like they should actually be telling them that it's not really okay to say things like that, but they never do. I mean, how many times have we heard Jay saying, "I'm gonna knock you out," and they've not said a single word, they've not said a single thing to him. It's a situation where if Jay swore, where if Jay swore and Mila swore, he would be more likely to be told off for swearing. Probably Mila. It's Mila who would probably be more likely to be told off for swearing than Jace would. Jace would probably get away with it as far as anybody else is concerned, that kid is basically Sarah's little golden boy, a little golden boy prince. You know, it's just ridiculous the way that she favoritizes Jace and the way that she puts him on a pedestal. And I feel like, Sarah isn't trying to hide that and isn't even trying to hide that anymore. She's not even trying to hide the fact that she favoritizes Jace and puts him on a pedestal. I mean, she's always very quick to deny that, but the fact that she says that she doesn't favoritize him, it's just unacceptable, absolutely unacceptable. And there's not a good thing to be said about it. The fact that she's basically favoritizing Jace the way that she does. There's so many things that have really kind of gotten to me with them, and but this is like one of the main things that has really gotten to me. Like, it's the constant favoritism, constant relentless favoritism that is being shown by Sarah towards Jace. You know, she'll come on and she'll say, "Oh, well, I treat all mates equally. I don't favouritize one of them over the other." But actually, she does. No matter how many times she denies that, doesn't mean that she's telling the truth. Because of course, she ain't gonna come on camera and admit that she does favouritize Jason. She does put him on the pedestal. Of course, she's gonna come on camera and deny that and say she doesn't do that. You know, this is the problem with people like Chris and Sarah. Is they're never gonna come on camera and actually admit to something, are they? They're always gonna come on camera and deny something. No matter what no matter what they get called out for, they'll always come out and they'll always come on camera and deny that. They'll never actually admit that they do. They admit that they do it. It's like Sarah, the favoritism that's being shown towards Jace. She will never actually come on the vlog or come on camera and admit that she does favouritize Jace. But I think it's become very, very obvious to a lot of people that she does do that and that she does put him on the pedestal. And you can really sort of see that she's not even trying to hide that anymore. It's just a crap situation because I'm not saying, it's just, it's a situation that is enough to piss anyone off. The fact that she thinks it's okay to favouritize Jace the way that she does. We've seen so many instances in their vlogs where Jace probably should have been told off for something and he wasn't told off for it, It's okay for him to do the things he does and say whatever he wants, say whatever he says, because he's the boss. He's allowed to do what he does. He's allowed to say, to tell me that he's gonna knock her out as he's the boss. And I'm not being funny, right? But if that's gonna cause a lot of problems in years to come. If they keep telling Jace that that he's the boss, that I can see that that's gonna cause a lot of problems. I mean, anybody can see that. You don't have to be a bloody expert to see that that's something that is gonna lead or could lead to a lot of problems. In years to come. As Jace gets older. Which is why I'm saying that it's not really acceptable for them to keep telling him that he's the boss. But that's not something that you should be telling a 5-year-old kid. You shouldn't keep telling a 5-year-old kid that he's the boss. It's like, like Jace is probably one of the most bratty, obnoxious kids I've ever seen. Like, he's someone to, I'm sorry to say it, but he is a spoilt brat, and I don't blame him for that. I don't blame him for the fact that he's a spoilt brat. I blame Chris and Sarah for that well, I blame Sarah for that in particular because of the way that she has actually, the way that she has constantly favoritized him, and the way that she has constantly put him on a pedestal. That is why that's why he's such a brat, because he's been constantly favoritized and put on a pedestal by his mother, you know, and of course she'll deny that 24/7, but just because she's denied it and says that she doesn't do it and says that she doesn't do that, doesn't mean that she's telling the truth. As I said, of course she's done it harmony. She ain't done it harmony, haven't admit that. She ain't done it harmony. It's not like, why would Sarah Hammer and admit that she does favouritize Jace? She's never done it Hammer and admit that. She's always done it Hammer and say, no, I don't do that. But it's become way too obvious that she does do that. There's no point in her trying to deny that anymore because it's become too much. It's become too blatantly obvious that she does favouritize him more than anything else. You know, the other hit that really kind of gets to me is Esme. Like Esme is just so obnoxious. Like you look at Isla, right? Isla and Isabel. They're probably happy with like cheap presents and things like that. They're not, they don't seem like they ever want sort of, they ever really ask for, expensive things. But when you look at Esme, it's like Esme, it's obviously, Esme is one of these kids that always wants expensive things and luxury things like designer stuff and things like that. And kids like that are just very hard people to get on with. It's not easy to dislike. You know, Esme, I would say, is the worst out of the older three. She's one of these kids that always wants expensive things. You know, but that's not really her fault. That's down to Chris and Sarah. You know, it's just the problem with it. The problem with it kids is that they've sort of grown up to expect that they will always that they're always going to get expensive things for their birthday, and Christmas. That's what kind of led to the problem. That's why Esme is the way that she is now. You know, I mean, I was watching some of Esme's TikTok videos the other day just out of curiosity. And my God, like some of the poses that she was pulling and things like that just seemed really inappropriate for a 14-year-old. And the pouting as well, like the pouting that she does is just absolutely ridiculous, and obnoxious for a 14-year-old. She doesn't, this is the thing with Esme, right? She doesn't act like a 14-year-old. You know, she seems, I would say that Esme acts like she's older than that. Esme tries to act like she's older than that. You know, the way that she responds to certain comments, but we have seen her being quite rude to people for no real reason. You know, she just, she's become a very rude, you know, nasty, selfish little brat. And again, Sarah has to blame for that. You know, I mean, Isla and Isabel are not too bad. I mean, I wouldn't say that I certainly don't think Isla acts like a brat. I don't think Isabel really acts like a brat. But Esme, on the other hand, she's the biggest and most obnoxious brat I have ever seen. I don't think that I have ever seen a brat, seen a bigger brat than Esme Alexa Rinham. Jesus Christ. That girl has turned into. I don't like what that girl is turning into. You know, it's like what happened to the old Esme. It's like you look at when she was younger, she seemed a lot nicer than she does seem to be now. You know, she's absolutely disgusting at this point. What she's turned into at 14 years old. You know, she's behind. The problem with Esme, and I hate to say it, but she's turning into a lazy. She's turning into a vile mother. That's what she's turning into. She's like a younger version. Basically, she's basically the younger version of Sarah and herself. You know, that's what Esme reminds me of. Her attitude, the way that she behaves, the pouting and all this stuff. It's just so obnoxious for a 14-year-old. You know, I'm not being funny, but Esme is just one of those kids who I wouldn't want to be friends with and I wouldn't want to be associated with, not just because of not because of what Chris did, but purely because of the way that she acts and the way that she speaks to people. I think that is what would put me off being friends with her. And I think it's because it's the way that they act so entitled as well. Like I can't stand people who act like that. This has become like the biggest problem with them, with the inghams, I would say, is that it's like no matter where they go, they're always moaning about something. It's like it's all it feels like that's all you're seeing in the vlogs these days is moan, is moan, 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 moan. It feels like they go out of their way to find something to moan or rant about. You know, and again, as I said, they act extremely, extremely entitled. And you're seeing that kind of rubbing off on the kids now. Even Esme acts, really very entitled. You know, but again, as I said, Jace, again, a complete and utter brat in every sense of the word. But again, that's down to Chris and Sarah. It's their fault that that he's a spoilt little brat because of the way they the way that Sarah has favoritized him and put him on a pedestal. You know, and I know it sounds a little bit harsh to say that, but someone had to say it. Those kids are turning into complete and utter spoilt brats. Those kids are not. As I said, I pity those who are friends with Esme, because Esme is not someone that you would want to be friends with, or you would want to kind of have anything to do with. She acts like a spoiled brat, most of the time. You know, mhm. I mean, Esme is the sort of kid that if you brought them something out of a charity shop, she would turn her nose up. She would turn her nose up at that. You know, you would get away with buying Esme something out of a charity shop. You should just turn her nose up at that. But you buy her something out of it. But you buy her something like a designer handbag or something like that. She'd certainly accept that. You know, Esme is one of those kids that won't accept something unless it's cost a fortune. I mean, if she's offered something cheap, she won't want to know. If she's offered something that's cost an absolute fortune, an absolute arm and a leg, she'll certainly take that without being asked twice. She ain't gonna turn her nose up at, she's not the sort of person that would turn her nose up at something that's cost an absolute fortune. But if it was something that was quite cheap, she would certainly turn her nose up at that. You know, this is the thing. They've grown up. They've been brought up to expect all of this sort of expensive stuff. And that's not a bad thing, and that's not a good thing. It's like you think about it. It's like what are the kids learning? All the kids are really learning is that is that whenever they want something, all they have to do is click their fingers, and mummy and daddy are gonna go out and buy it for them. They're not really learning. You know, it's like I don't think that I can't remember. I don't think those kids have ever been told no, and that's the biggest part of the problem here. Is that those kids have never been told no. You know, at any point. It's just crazy. Like it's The problem with Esme and him, you see, she acts and she acts like she thinks that she's something special. That's the thing with Esme. You see that she really thinks that she's something special, but she's actually not. She's not that. She's not as special as she thinks she is. She certainly acts like she's something special, though. I can't stand people like that who act like they're something special. You know, it's like, people like that, it's just disgusting, but, um, mm-mm. It's like, I'm not being funny, but every time I see Esme or Jace in the vlogs, I have to turn the vlogs off if I cannot stand them. I don't have a problem with Mila, I don't have a problem with Isla, and I don't have a problem with Isabel, because they're not too bad. It's just Esme and Jace that I cannot stand because they are brats. You know, and I don't think anybody would deny that. They are brats. But that is not down to, that. That's not their fault. That is purely down to Chris and Sarah. That Esme and Jace out there behave the way they do and are the biggest pair of brats I've ever seen. And they're the most obnoxious brats I've ever seen as well. Like, I just can't, it's just not, it's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. Esme is 14 years old and she behaves like the biggest brat I've ever seen. 14 years old. You wouldn't think she was 14 the way she acts. She certainly doesn't act like a 14-year-old. You know, it's just absolutely, it's not beyond a joke. But it's all, as I said, it's down to Chris and Sarah. They're the ones to blame for that. Simple as that. There's nothing else that can be said. I honestly don't think there is anything else that could be said about it because, it is what it is, that's what I say, really. But I hope you enjoyed this video anyway. I'll see you for another one, I guess, very soon. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you later. Bye bye.